Tokyo.
Yeah.
Just the name sparks images of this incredible fast-paced city, a magnet for people traveling for both leisure and, crucially, for business.
Definitely.
And if you've ever looked at that constant influx and thought maybe about becoming a host yourself, offering a slice of Tokyo to these visitors, then you're in the right place today. We're taking a deep dive into navigating the short-term rental market right there in Tokyo.
Exactly. And we're drawing on insights from moveandstay.com. Now, what's interesting about them is their extensive experience. We're talking over 25 years connecting people with accommodation across Asia.
Wow, 25 years.
Yeah, they've really seen how the needs of travelers, especially, business travelers and expats, needing those flexible stays, have shaped this market over time.
That long-term perspective, that's invaluable, isn't it? So our goal today is basically to equip you with a solid understanding if you're all curious about or maybe considering entering the Tokyo short-term rental scene. We're going to unpack the essential regulations because you absolutely need to get those right. Explore why location is even more critical than you might think. Discuss smart ways to price your property. And ultimately, how to ensure your guests have a fantastic stay.
Yeah, the whole package.
We want to give you the core knowledge without burying you in, overwhelming detail. Okay, let's unpack this.
So what's fascinating when we look at a source like moveandstay.com with that kind of history is how the initial maybe excitement around short-term rentals in Tokyo has matured.
It matures, yeah. How so?
Well, they highlight that early on, it might have seemed like easy money, especially with tourism really booming. But the landscape, it's become much more competitive now. It sort of reflects a natural evolution, really.
Right. The article touches on how the favorable exchange rate has tempted some to consider buying property specifically for short-term rentals.
Ah, yeah, you hear that.
Sounds logical on the surface, doesn't it? But then it immediately points out the sheer level of competition. You're definitely not alone if that thought has crossed your mind.
No way.
It makes you wonder how you actually stand out.
Precisely. And it's not just competition in general. MoveAndStay.com's experience, I imagine, shows a real concentration of demand in very specific areas. The article reminds us that while Japan as a whole is appealing, Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka consistently draw the lion's share of tourist interests.
Right, the big three.
So if your potential property isn't in one of those hotspots, consistently attracting bookings could be, well, a significant hurdle.
And here's a really practical point that MoveAndStay.com's kind of experience likely underscores maintenance.
So that's a big one.
The article mentions that finding reliable services can actually be more challenging outside the major urban centers. So if you're maybe considering a property a bit further out, that's a crucial logistical factor you really have to weigh up. It's not just about getting guests in the door.
No, it's about the long run, managing it effectively.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, especially considering MoveAndStay.com's focus on longer term and business travelers too, the article suggests that the stricter regulatory environment in Tokyo, combined with its really high property values, means that the net profitability of a short-term rental might actually be more aligned with traditional long-term rentals than some might initially expect.
Interesting. So maybe not the gold mine people imagine.
It raises the question, is the added effort and complexity of short-term hosting truly worth it for maybe a comparable return? Something to think about.
Which leads us directly to something that's just non-negotiable, the regulations.
Absolutely.
You simply cannot discuss short-term rentals in Tokyo without properly understanding the Minpaku law. It sounds like the sort of foundational rule book for this whole thing.
That's absolutely correct. The Minpaku law, or Ledo NS, which translates to something like private lodging business new law, it was introduced to bring structure, some order to the short-term rental market.
Okay.
It was really about finding a balance, accommodating the influx of tourists, which is great for the economy, while also addressing the concerns of local residents about noise, safety, and just the character of their neighborhoods changing.
Okay, so if someone's seriously considering this, what are the absolute can't-ignore elements of this Minpaku law?
Okay, the critical points are, 1, you must register your property with the local government. This isn't optional. It's a legal requirement.
Must register. Got it.
Secondly, there's generally an annual limit on the number of nights you can rent out your property. Typically, it's 180 nights, unless you go through the much more involved process of getting a full hotel business license.
Right, 180 nights usually.
And finally, your property has to meet specific safety and hygiene standards. Think fire safety equipment, proper ventilation, adhering to sanitation guidelines. Basic safety stuff.
And what happens if someone thinks, maybe I can just overlook this?
Well, moveandstay.com's experience likely highlights just how serious noncompliance is taken. The article is very clear. Ignoring the Minpaku law can result in significant fines and even the mandatory closure of your rental operation.
Ouch.
It really emphasizes the need to be compliant right from day one. No shortcuts.
So, for someone who wants to do things properly,
Yeah.
by the book, what does the registration process actually involve? What do they need to do?
Generally, it involves pulling together a fair amount of documentation. You'll typically need proof you own the property.
Okay.
Or, and this is crucial, if you're renting the property yourself and plan to sublet, you need explicit written permission from your landlord. That's a big one.
Right. Permission is key if you're not the owner.
Definitely. You'll also need to submit a detailed floor plan of the property, provide your personal identification, and outline your management plan.
Management plan. What's in that?
That details how you'll handle guest communication, the cleaning procedures between stays, emergency protocols, basically, how you'll run the place responsibly.
And where does all this paperwork actually go?
It all needs to be submitted to your local municipal office. Now, the article makes a vital point, and moveandstay.com's long experience would certainly back this up. The precise requirements can differ slightly from one municipality to another, even within Tokyo.
So it's not uniform across the city.
Not always, no. So it's absolutely essential to contact your specific local office directly. Check their website, maybe call them, confirm you have all the necessary information and the correct forms for your area.
Okay. Local check is vital.
And again, just to stress that landlord's explicit permission is non-negotiable if you don't own the entire building outright. They really check that.
Okay, so the Minpaku law is the big framework, the national law. But it sounds like there can be additional layers of rules depending on exactly where you are in Tokyo.
That's correct. The Minpaku law provides the national legal structure, but individual cities and even specific wards within Tokyo have the authority to enact their own, sometimes more specific, regulations that build upon that national law.
Right. Can you give us some examples? Like what kind of extra rules might you encounter?
Certainly. They could include restrictions on operating hours, for example. Some residential areas might limit check-in or check-out times to, minimize disruption to neighbors.
Makes sense.
Noise levels are a frequent concern, so there might be specific quiet hours or rules about parties. And waste disposal, that's a significant aspect in Japan, generally. Local regulations often dictate very precise methods for sorting and disposing of different types of rubbish. You need to know the schedule, the bag types.
Okay, sounds detailed. So how does a potential host even begin to figure all this out? It sounds like a bit of a maze.
The ultimate responsibility lies with the host. The article strongly suggests checking the official websites of the relevant local government, your city, or your ward.
Right, go direct to the source.
Or even contacting their offices directly to get the most current and accurate information. It really stresses that ignorance isn't an excuse. Being compliant is crucial, not just to avoid fines, but also to maintain positive relationships with your neighbors and the local community. That's really important in Japan.
Good neighbor relations, yeah.
And, look, for those who find the whole process daunting, seeking professional help with the registration and compliance side, maybe from a consultant or agency, might be a worthwhile investment, especially when you're just starting out.
That's good advice. All right, let's pivot a bit to something that seems absolutely critical for success in this market. Choosing the right location.
Oh, absolutely critical.
It sounds like this decision can significantly impact your occupancy rates, the price you can charge, and even the kind of guests you attract.
Absolutely. Location is paramount in the short-term rental game. You really need to try and put yourself in the mindset of your target guest. Why are they coming to Tokyo? What kind of experience are they hoping for? MoveAndStay.com's experience with diverse traveler needs probably reinforces this constantly.
The article highlights several popular districts. Let's start with, say, Shinjuku. What's the appeal there for short-term renters?
Shinjuku is a massive transportation hub, so the convenience for getting around the city is incredible. Plus, it's known for its really vibrant nightlife, huge shopping options, tons of restaurants. It often appeals to maybe younger adults, people who want to be right in the center of the action.
Okay, action central. Then there's Shibuya, famous for that, the scramble crossing. What's the vibe there?
Shibuya has a very trendy, energetic atmosphere. It's particularly popular with younger generations, people interested in fashion, music, cutting-edge culture. It's just bustling with a strong sense of youthful energy.
Right, very current. Now, for a completely different feel, they mention Asakusa. What does that district offer?
Asakusa provides a much more traditional Japanese experience. You've got historic temples like Sensoji, it offers a glimpse into old Tokyo, and it just has a more relaxed cultural vibe.
Okay.
This would likely appeal more to travelers seeking, cultural immersion, maybe a slightly slower pace.
And finally, Ueno Park gets a mention. What's the main draw there?
Ueno Park is kind of unique because it combines cultural attractions with green spaces. You have major museums, lovely gardens, the Ueno Zoo, all right there.
Culture and nature.
Exactly. This might attract families or perhaps those looking for a balance between exploring the city and having some downtime in nature.
So it's really not just about picking any popular area. It's about matching that area's specific character with the kind of guest you actually want to attract.
Precisely. And the article then digs into more specific factors that should influence your choice within those areas or others. Proximity to key tourist attractions, museums, parks, entertainment venues, that's a significant draw, obviously. The closer you are, the easier it is for guests.
It makes perfect sense. What else should potential hosts be thinking about?
Local amenities are crucial for a comfortable stay. Are there plenty of good restaurants nearby? Cafes, supermarkets, and those essential Japanese convenience stores, or konbini? Having easy walking access to everyday necessities is a huge plus.
Yeah, convenience is king.
Safety and security are also paramount, of course. Researching the general safety of the neighborhood, maybe reading traveler reviews about the area, can provide valuable insights.
Good point.
And finally, think about noise levels. There's often a trade-off, isn't there, between being in a super lively central area versus a quieter, more residential spot. Your target guests' preferences, what they want from their Tokyo trip, will really dictate which is more important.
Okay, building on location, the ease of getting around Tokyo is a huge draw in itself, right? Japan's transport is legendary. How does that factor into choosing a property?
Oh, absolutely. Tokyo boasts one of the most efficient, extensive public transportation systems anywhere in the world. And being located close to train or subway stations is a massive advantage for a short-term rental.
How close is ideal?
Ideally, you want a property that's just a short walk, maybe 5–10 minutes max, from a well-connected station. MoveAndStay.com, catering often to business travelers, they'd certainly emphasize this convenience factor. Time is money for them.
And it's not just about being near any station, is it?
Exactly. Good point. Consider which train or subway lines actually serve that particular station. How well connected are they to other key areas of the city? Places your target guests are likely to want to visit, Ginza, Akihabara, wherever. Easy access to multiple major lines is a huge selling point.
Right, connectivity matters.
Also, don't forget about airport access. Can guests get a direct train or maybe an easy bus link to Narita or Haneda airports? That can be a major convenience, especially for international travelers juggling luggage.
Sure.
And while Tokyo's public transport is fantastic, the availability of taxis in the immediate vicinity can also be a plus. Think late-night arrivals, early departures, or guests with lots of bags.
Okay, good practical tips. Now let's talk about the actual properties. What types do we typically see in the Tokyo short-term rental market? Is it mostly apartments?
Yeah, the article, and this aligns with what moveandstay.com likely sees constantly, points out that apartments are far, far more common than houses in Tokyo's rental market. It's largely due to the high population density and just space constraints, especially in those central popular districts.
Makes sense.
You'll find a pretty wide range of apartment sizes, though, from very compact studios ideal for solo travelers or maybe short business trips up to larger apartments that can comfortably accommodate families or small groups.
What about houses, though? Are they even an option for short-term rentals?
They do exist, but they tend to be less common, particularly in central Tokyo. You're more likely to find them in more suburban, quieter residential neighborhoods. They typically offer more space, maybe a bit more privacy.
So it depends on the target guest again.
Exactly. The choice between an apartment and a house really depends on your budget, the size of the groups you want to host, and the specific type of location and experience you're aiming to provide.
Are there any sort of unique features or characteristics that guests might encounter in Tokyo rentals? Things worth knowing about?
Yes, definitely. Compact living is probably the key characteristic. Guests should generally expect smaller living spaces compared to what they might be used to elsewhere.
Okay, manage expectations on size.
But this often comes with very efficient use of that space. You'll also frequently encounter what are called Japanese bathrooms. Typically, the toilet is in a separate small room, and the bathing area, often with a deep soaking tub, is separate again.
The soaking tub.
Exactly. Some older apartments might still have traditional tatami rooms with the woven straw flooring. And while balconies are quite common, they do tend to be on the smaller side, usually just for drying laundry.
Anything else property-wise hosts need to keep in mind?
Yeah, the article reminds us that many apartment buildings have specific, sometimes quite strict rules. Things like noise levels, especially at night, and the proper sorting and disposal of rubbish.
We mentioned the rubbish rules earlier.
Yes, it's really important. Hosts absolutely must familiarize themselves with these building rules and make sure their guests are fully aware of and respect them. It prevents trouble with neighbors and management.
Okay, and furnishings. What's standard for short-term?
For short-term rentals in Tokyo, fully furnished properties are definitely the standard expectation. This usually includes all the essential furniture, major appliances like a fridge, microwave, washing machine, and basic kitchenware pots, pans, dishes.
So ready to move in.
Basically, yes. This is quite different from long-term rentals in Japan, where unfurnished apartments are much more common. For short-term stays, guests expect a place that's fully equipped and ready to live in from the moment they arrive.
Let's shift gears now to the financial side, pricing. How does someone even begin to think about setting competitive but also profitable prices for their Tokyo short-term rental?
Right, pricing. It's absolutely critical, isn't it? Get it wrong, and you either get no bookings or leave money on the table. The article suggests starting by understanding the average daily rate, or ADR, in your specific area.
ADR, okay.
Yeah, that's the average nightly rate that similar properties nearby are actually renting for. There are various online tools and platforms, now think AirDNA, Mashvisor, those kinds of things, that can provide insights into these trends and even forecast potential fluctuations in ADR for the coming months, maybe into 2025, like the outline mentioned.
But the ADR is just an average, right? Like a starting point. Your actual rate depends on your specific place.
Exactly, it's just a benchmark. The article outlines several key factors that directly influence your potential rental price. Location, as we've discussed, is huge. Properties in prime central areas will naturally command higher rates.
Sure.
The time of year, the season, also plays a massive role. Peak tourist seasons, cherry blossom time, autumn leaves, major holidays, you can typically charge significantly more than during the off-peak shoulder seasons or low season.
Makes sense. Supply and demand.
Then there are the amenities and features your property offers. A newly renovated apartment, high-end appliances, a great view. More perks can justify a higher price. And, of course, the size of the property matters. Larger places that sleep more guests generally rent for more.
So you should highlight your unique selling points too.
Definitely. If your place has a unique theme, stunning views, maybe it's exceptionally close to a specific venue or event location, highlight that in your listing and potentially factor it into your pricing.
So how do you actually take all these variables, location, season, amenities, size, and turn them into a practical pricing strategy? What are the approaches?
The article outlines a few common ones. Dynamic pricing is one. This often involves using specialized software that automatically adjusts your rates in real time based on factors like current demand, seasonality, competitor pricing, even the day of the week.
Sounds complex, but maybe effective.
It can be very effective, yeah, but there's often a learning curve, and these tools usually have subscription costs. Another approach is seasonal adjustments. This is more manual. You proactively change your prices based on the time of year, and anticipated demand higher for holidays, lower for slow periods.
Okay, simpler, but needs more attention.
Right, you need to monitor the market yourself. And then there's competitive analysis. Basically, regularly checking the listings and prices of comparable properties right in your immediate vicinity and adjusting your own rates to stay competitive, or maybe slightly below or above, depending on your strategy.
So kind of keeping an eye on the neighbors.
Pretty much, yeah. It can be time-consuming, though. The advice often given is to experiment a bit. Maybe start your initial pricing slightly higher than you think, see what happens, and then adjust downwards if you're not attracting enough bookings. Easier to drop prices than raise them sometimes.
Okay, you've got a great location, you've nailed the regulations, you've figured out your pricing. But ultimately, the long-term success really hinges on the experience your guests have, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Providing a consistently excellent guest experience is paramount. It's what gets you those glowing
So
reviews.
5 stars.
Exactly. Which in turn drive future bookings, build your reputation, and can even allow you to command slightly higher rates down the line. It goes way beyond just providing a clean place to sleep. It's about creating a welcoming, comfortable, memorable stay. MoveAndStay.com's focus on traveler satisfaction over their long history would certainly underscore this.
So what are some of the key elements that really contribute to a positive guest experience? What makes a stay great?
Well, the article highlights the importance of providing high-quality essential amenities. Reliable, fast Wi-Fi is practically non-negotiable these days. Guests just expect it.
Absolutely essential.
Comfortable bedding. This is so crucial for a good night's sleep after a long day exploring Tokyo. Don't skimp on mattresses or linens. A well-equipped kitchen is important too, especially if your guests plan to prepare some of their own meals to save money or cater to dietary needs. Providing quality toiletries, shampoo, conditioner, body wash can be a thoughtful and appreciated touch. Feels a bit more premium. And having some entertainment options available, like a smart TV with access to Netflix or local channels, maybe even a few books or magazines about Tokyo, can be great for downtime.
Okay, good amenities. Are there any specific cultural considerations that hosts in Tokyo should really be mindful of? Things that can enhance the experience or, if ignored, cause friction?
Yes, definitely. There are several important cultural nuances to be aware of. As we touched on briefly before, it's customary in Japan to remove shoes upon entering a home. So, providing clean slippers for your guests right at the entrance is a small but important gesture.
Shoes off, slippers on, got it.
Cleanliness.
Yeah.
It's highly valued in Japanese culture. Ensuring your property is immaculately clean before each guest's arrival is absolutely essential. Pay attention to details.
Okay, spotless is the standard.
Being mindful of noise levels, especially during evening and nighttime hours, is also crucial out of respect for neighbors in often close quarters. Make sure guests understand any quiet hours.
Right, be considerate.
If you choose to provide a welcome gift, which can be a nice touch, something small and perhaps locally sourced, some Japanese snacks or tea can be very much appreciated. Doesn't have to be expensive.
Nice idea.
And finally, back to the rubbish. Japan has strict rules regarding recycling and waste disposal. Providing clear, simple, maybe even visual instructions for your guests on how to sort their trash correctly is vital. It avoids confusion for them and problems for you.
Okay, clear instructions for trash. It sounds like going that extra mile, maybe with some local insights, can really elevate the guest experience too.
Absolutely. Offering local insights and recommendations can significantly enhance your guest stay and make them feel more connected to the city, less like just a tourist.
Like what?
Creating a well-organized welcome guide is a fantastic idea. Include information about nearby recommended restaurants, maybe your personal favorites, local shops, supermarkets, key attractions, how to use appliances.
Little insider guide.
Exactly. Providing practical transportation tips, how to buy a SUPA card, the best subway routes to popular destinations can be incredibly helpful, especially for first-time visitors.
Yeah, navigating the Tokyo Metro can be daunting at first.
Sharing some of your personal favorite hidden gems or local experiences, places maybe not in the main guidebooks, can make your guests feel like they're getting a truly authentic perspective. And simply being readily available, or having someone available to answer any questions they might have promptly can make a huge difference in their overall satisfaction.
So it's about creating that welcoming, helpful environment.
Precisely. It's about creating a welcoming, comfortable, and informative environment that makes your guests feel genuinely taken care of, not just like they've rented a room.
So listening to all this, it's clear this isn't just a set it and forget it, hands-off way to earn income, is it?
Not at all.
It sounds like actively managing a short-term rental in Tokyo requires pretty significant ongoing attention and effort.
That's absolutely correct. It's much more involved than just listing your property online and hoping for the best. Effective, proactive management is really key to long-term success and avoiding problems.
What are the key management tasks?
The article highlights the critical importance of consistent maintenance and thorough cleaning services. You need to do regular inspections of your property, maybe monthly or even more frequently between longer stays to check for wear and tear, fix small issues before they become big ones.
Proactive maintenance.
And professional cleaning between each guest stay is absolutely essential. Guests expect hotel-level cleanliness, and it's crucial for getting those positive reviews. Also, having reliable contractors, a plumber, an electrician, a handyman on call for any emergency repairs is vital for quick responses. You don't want a guest stuck with a broken AC in summer.
No, definitely not. And what about managing the interactions with the guests themselves?
Yeah.
Communication.
Clear and prompt communication is paramount throughout the process. Sending detailed pre-arrival information well in advance, covering check-in instructions, house rules reminder, Wi-Fi password, how to use appliances. This prevents a lot of potential confusion and last-minute questions.
This expectations early.
Exactly. And responding quickly and efficiently to guest inquiries during their stay is also vital. Aiming to answer messages within a few hours shows you're attentive and care about their experience.
Okay. What about language barriers? Tokyo gets lots of international visitors.
Yeah, that's a good point. Given the global appeal of Tokyo, you're likely to host international guests. So being prepared to offer multilingual support is really beneficial, even if it's just using translation tools effectively or having some standard translated messages ready.
Good tip. And inevitably, sometimes things go wrong. Issues or complaints might come up. How should hosts handle those?
It happens. The key is to remain calm and professional, even if the complaint seems unreasonable at first. Actively listen to the guest's perspective, try to understand their issue fully.
Stay calm. Listen.
Then, try to find fair and practical solutions. This might involve offering a partial refund, arranging for a quick repair, or in rare serious cases, maybe helping them find alternative accommodation. And always document everything. Keep records of the complaint, your communication, and any resolution reached. This protects you later if needed.
Document, document, document.
Exactly. Ultimately, remember, those positive ratings are the lifeblood of your short-term rental business. Building a solid reputation takes consistent effort, attention to detail, and a real focus on guest satisfaction. And as the article indirectly suggests, maybe thinking about the kind of long-term reliability that platforms like moveandstay.com represent that focus on satisfaction is key. For newcomers, maybe considering guidance from a short-term rental consultant could be a worthwhile investment to get started on the right foot and avoid common pitfalls.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the world of Tokyo's short-term rental market. It certainly sounds like there's definite potential, but also a significant amount to consider carefully.
Yes, it's definitely a dynamic and, constantly evolving market. As we've discussed, staying informed about the regulations, meticulously choosing your location, implementing a smart, flexible pricing strategy, and consistently prioritizing that guest experience are all absolutely essential for navigating it successfully.
Right.
And resources like moveandstay.com, with their deep long-term understanding of the Asian travel and accommodation landscape, they really offer valuable context for anyone considering entering this market or even just trying to understand it better.
Absolutely. And all this valuable information, providing that kind of deep, long-term perspective on the Asian accommodation market, comes to us thanks to the insights from moveandstay.com. As you said, a platform with over 25 years of experience connecting travelers, business, expat leisure with places to stay across the region. So a resource definitely worth checking out if you're exploring accommodation options in Asia, whether it's for a day, a week, or even for longer stays.
Indeed. And this brings up maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Given the increasing globalization of travel and this ever-evolving landscape of local regulations in major cities like Tokyo, how might platforms with really extensive long-term experience like moveandstay.com continue to shape the way we find and utilize short-term and flexible accommodation? Not just for tourists, but also for that growing number of business travelers, digital nomads, and individuals seeking those medium-term stays in global hubs. It's an interesting question to consider, isn't it, as you think about the future of how we live, work, and travel in these big, dynamic cities.